I have got some slides that we'll be talking through as we go through, if they can project them for me. Now, what I'm going to talk about here is the topic, taxation and accountability. Why should Nigerians pay tax at all and in the first place? And so the agenda, what I'm going to go through is an overview of what we're doing. What is tax and why do we have tax in the first place? What are the canons of taxation? Because if you don't go back to basics and you don't understand where you're coming from, you cannot move forward and deliver where you should be delivering. We'll explore a few of the reasons why taxpayers don't engage, especially in Nigeria. As Prof said, they don't engage across the world, but there's a greater incentive for people to engage outside Nigeria. In Nigeria, there are a lot of impediments. Go to the next slide, please. We will discuss attitudes to taxation and finally round up with some recommendations and next steps. So if we go to the next slide, what we're actually going to discuss, and the paradigm shift that we require, the absolute change that we require, are some fundamental questions. Is it really true that Nigerians don't want to pay tax? Or is it a myth? Is there a nexus between corruption and tax payments? What is the social contract? And how can that social contract promote tax compliance? And we'll be answering those questions as we go along. Is there sufficient consultation with micro, small, and medium businesses when we are setting tax policies, or you just stand up one morning? One of the things I do and I talk about anytime I'm involved in any stakeholder engagement is, have you come to communicate or have you come to consult? If you come to consult, I will lay out what I'm doing. You have an opportunity to make contributions. I may take some of them on board. I may not. We can enter into a debate. But what we usually call stakeholder consultations in Nigeria is that I will come and I will tell you what is happening, and anything where you they talk, Najambele you they talk. You are not, I've already made up my mind what the policy is, and I'm not ready to change. And so you don't get buy-in, you don't get ownership. How can our future leaders influence the tax discussion? And what big ideas can help us make a change? So let me start with the basics. Next slide, please. What is tax? Basically, in all modern economies, it's the most important source of government revenues. For a very long time in Nigeria, oil had distorted our background. If you go back to the 50s and 60s, when we were reliant on agriculture and non-oil products, there was greater engagement by everybody, and there was a lot more happening. Now, the government is slowly getting back to a point where it needs to raise money other than from oil. So they're different from other places, because when you pay a tax, you don't get anything in return for that tax. When you pay for a loaf of bread, you get a loaf of bread in return. So there needs to be a lot of trust as to why I'm giving you this money when you haven't really, I don't know what's going to happen with that money. And of course, again, as Prof had outlined, the purposes of taxation, among other things, is getting money for resource allocation, to be able to do things in the country by the government. It can also be used to address inequalities in the system and for income redistribution. And that can be done in a number of ways. It can be done by giving money to poorer people. It can be done by arranging your tax system so that the poorer don't pay that much tax, but they pay something. I was in a review of the personal income tax with the Tax Law Reform Commission in Abuja a couple of weeks ago. And there was a whole outcry about whether pensioners should be taxed. And a lot of the judges were saying that they are taxed when the money goes in, they are taxed when it can't. I said, no, that's not what the law says. You do not pay tax when you are contributing your mite to your pension. But when it comes out, you have had that relief, you should pay tax. You can make sure that people who earn below a certain limit do not pay tax. I'm a pensioner in the UK. I have a higher threshold than ordinary taxpayers because they know I need to spend my money and there's not much more money coming in. So you can do that. The biggest problem in Nigeria, let's face it, is not tax on pension. It's getting the pension in the first place, because many of those pensions are under 30,000 naira a month, which under the extant rules are not taxable anyway. The people are crying because this is part of the transparency and accountability. We are not getting our money. We are not getting what we contributed years for. There are different types of taxes: personal income tax, value-added tax. There's another whole pile of charges that are generally called internally generated revenues. They include taxes, but they also include levies. They include charges. When you go to the hospital, you can get a charge. That one you're getting a service, but it's still part of the internally generated revenue. And there can be fines when you go wrong. And in a lot of states, when you analyze the figures, the judiciary actually contributes a significant proportion to the tax collection in the state from fines, from people who are going wrong. Now, you can imagine if the system was working properly, that would actually be higher, or people would have stopped doing what they are doing in order to avoid paying those fines, because the fine is what you pay when you don't want to engage. Next slide, please. So why should we pay taxes? Well, the simplest reason is that the local government, the state, the federal governments implement the tax laws, and it is your money, taxpayers' money, that is used to provide all those government services. So we do need that sort of money there. It provides money for social welfare, for health, and for education. And it was rather disappointing to see that one of the bills that has not passed was the bill on having free healthcare for children. That's my tax money. More children die of malaria in this country than of any other thing. And we should be putting money where the future generations are coming out from. So, but that's what it's supposed to be used for, to sustain government, the normal running expenses. And those expenses do need to be justified and cut down, because at the moment, sometimes they are absolutely crazy. I'm sure you see with me on social media, all sorts of expenditures where people are spending. The latest one I saw is a governor and his wife spending 19 billion on tickets to Dubai. And the whole of that trip with everybody else comes to 73 million. Do you know how many pensioners you could have paid with that money? Did you really need to go there? And then on top of that one is going out to go and have healthcare. 24 point something billion for State House Hospital. Yet the president goes out. Instead of using that money to bring those people here and treat another 100 free or at a reduced charge here in Nigeria. And the same figure, incidentally, 24.87 billion has been allocated for 27,000 primary health care centers across the world. Transparency, accountability. While I pay my taxes, I am expecting all those things in return. And of course, you can also use it to support local industry. You can use taxation to make it difficult to bring in certain things, to make it more expensive for people to bring it in, so that the price of your own local ones can grow. I grow rice, I package rice. But I'm never going to be able to compete with Thailand at the price and the megatons they do, unless there is that barrier, and taxation allows those sorts of things to take place. They often say, taxes are what we pay for a civilized society. But President Roosevelt in 1937 said, however, too many individuals, want civilization at a discount. That's the people who want it but don't want to pay for it. We see it everywhere, in all facets of our life. People want the big man style, lifestyle, but they don't want to do the suffering that goes with that smiling. And every time people meet me, I say, I'm suffering and smiling. If you're smiling and smiling, you will. If you are suffering and suffering, sorry. But if you're suffering and smiling, that is the correct balance of what things should be. Because you should suffer and then you should smile. Next slide, please. Let's go back to where all this stuff started. Adam Smith's book, The Wealth of Nations, 1887. He's brought up 4 canons. There are now 9 canons, whether people have added. But the 4 primary canons of taxation are equity. The more money you make, the more tax you should pay. A question that you should think about. Does that happen in Nigeria? The records show that about 1,000 people pay more than 10 million naira tax in the whole country. And to pay 10 million naira tax just means an income of somewhere around 60 million. People, okay, if you're going to steal my money, I just pay tax on it. Certainty refers to the idea that taxes should be clear and transparent, and that everybody should know how quickly to find out what they have to pay, when they have to pay, and how much they have to pay. And this is being addressed through a program that I'm working with the World Bank with supporting states. Almost all the states now have started to publish their rates on their websites and in their laws. And that is very important, because if you come and meet me and you say you want 450 naira for this one, I say show me on the schedule. If it's not on the schedule, you can't make it up. Okay, come and take me to court now. You can't take me to court because there's nothing you can take me to court. Okay? So the more I know my own rights, the stronger convenience. If I need installments, we should have a system that allows for installments. Maybe you start paying, and the laws do provide for it, but even the tax officials don't always know that the laws provide for installmental payments. But when I'm talking about convenience, there's no point in coming to demand from a farmer any payments in April, May, June, July, because he's not going to have the money. You come in the harvest period and do it. So you need to plan so that these taxes are collected at the right time, from the right people, and the point where they have money. And economy refers to the idea that the cost of collecting these taxes should not be very high. Right now, you see across the country, all sorts of agencies fighting to be the one collecting the tax. In fact, in the last finance bill, we had to put in a measure that says only the federal inland revenue can collect these taxes and put them into one place. And the reason why they're all fighting for it is cost of collection. And so they charge 15%. So for every 100 naira you pay, 15 naira is paid to somebody who is collecting these taxes. This is wrong. I worked for 23 years in Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. It costs less than the equivalent of 1 naira to collect every 100 naira. Here in law, FIRS uses 4%. Still a reasonable figure. Customs uses 7%. But some of these other collections are 15, 20%. And I have seen states that try to write it into their law. It's the same. So these are just the basic canons of taxation. Have we gone back to basics? Are we looking at what is happening? Do we understand that if we follow those things, then tax engagement by Nigerians will be a lot better? What's the size of the pie? The size still up for. There are about 41 million small and medium SMEs in the country, and they account for 96% of the business in this country is by SMEs. 84% of employment is by SMEs. It's good that there are big, mega companies. And by the way, those mega companies pay the bulk of the tax in this country. The smaller ones don't really pay that much. But they're the ones that have the employees. They're the ones that actually make the world go round. And so they're very important. And they account for about 48% of the national gross domestic product. Unfortunately, most of that is informal, and worse than informal, it's shadow economy. And I'll talk about how corruption can push you into the shadow economy. And so what we find is that over a survey in 2017 by Business Day found that 80% of small businesses are not paying regular taxes. Next slide, please. Various studies by the Nigerian Economic Summit Group and internationally have shown that the reasons why taxpayers do not engage, not just Nigeria, it's across the world, unless you address these issues, people will not engage. And the cartoon there, because it's a hidden, when you finish talking, you are just at the front, at the back, you need to nap up, not going to get them. Economic factors. Some people don't have the money to pay the tax, or the tax has not been designed to collect money at the time when money is available. Very poor knowledge of the tax system, and because tax system can be very, very complex. Even in the UK, I have people, Nigerians, who had to regularize their states, and they wanted to pay taxes. Because if you don't pay your taxes, you will not be able to regularize your state. And they had bought houses and were renting out. And they were looking at the £1,000 per month they were getting in, and they had done 40% times £1,000. You may have to pay for something, 4,000 something in tax out of this money. But I have my mortgage to pay, I have other things to pay. And that's because you don't understand it. Income, expenses out. What is left of that 1,000 is probably 100 profit. By the time you collect, the correct rate is 25 for that level of income. You're paying £25 for that tax. That's something you can afford to pay. So a lot of people don't engage with the tax system because they think that their bill is going to be bigger than it actually is. And once it starts to accumulate, it does become very big because there are penalties, there is interest, and other things. And of course, the more something isn't there, the more your back will go up, the more aggressive you will become. So knowledge and complexity is a major challenge. The fiscal exchange and the social contract, and I'm going to talk about the social contract. What do I get in return for my taxes? I'll discuss that one. Societal and individual attitudes. How do we as a society consider paying of tax? And I'm going to address that one. Legitimacy, trust, and fairness, which is linked to transparency and accountability. These are all reasons why taxpayers do not pay taxes. Next slide, please. So what we did here with Pearl is a DFID program here in Enugu and for the Southeast. We got a whole pile of impediments and enablers for taxpayer engagement in Nigeria. And in the Southeast, the programs are multiple taxation. There are touts, there are different levels of charges. I will pay, local government to come and collect from me, state government to come and collect from me, federal government to want to come and collect from me. These are all issues. Unfavorable land tenure means you can't do what you need to do. Infrastructure, what are you getting in return? I'm from a foreign state, so I can tell you at least I ride on good roads and flyovers, unlike some states. But there's water, I don't have electricity. Okay? Insecurity is the bane of all of our lives, and again, as Bob said, we're not at war, which is even worse. Because I didn't feel the Biafran war. I was in my town the day it fell. And I can tell you that this way you know you're under war situation, you know where to go and what to do. This one you don't even know where to turn and what to do. Inadequate access to credit. There are all these theoretical access to credits that are being given. How many people are actually able to access those lines of credit? And there's the corruption issue on top of that as well. And of course, our capacity building. So these are the bottlenecks. And with all of these things going on, how do you think I'm going to pay tax? Hey, you haven't done this, you haven't done this, you haven't done this. So these are the issues why people don't want to pay the tax. And then I come to the next slide, the question. Is there a nexus between corruption and taxation? And research has shown across the world, and I deliberately picked the one from South America and those sort of countries to show that it's not just a Nigeria problem. In fact, in the Ukraine, where they all fight, corruption is one of the major bases of the society. Corruption has a negative effect on tax administration and tax audits. Because what you do is you reduce the credibility of the tax collecting system when there's any mathematical going on. And when you start having that corruption, taxpayers are motivated to go to the shadow economy. And it's very difficult to bring people out of the shadow economy unless you give amnesties and various other things. But you still need to go back and address that social contract. So the findings of relatively strong empirical evidence support this. And decreasing the corruption in the public sector needs to be one of the key steps towards raising tax revenues. Next slide. This is a slightly different take on it. But what it does, corruption not only lowers the tax to GDP ratio, it also causes long-term damage to the economy by attracting investors and investments. If I come and I'm not sure everybody's going to knock on my door, I can't make an investment now. Then as soon as everybody at the other. I'm speaking in Yoruba because I'm talking in Yoruba. It increases the size of the informal economy, it distorts the tax structures, and it promotes the tax morality of taxpayers. If I know that I give you 2 and 6 instead of the official 5 shillings, why would I want to pay the 5 shillings? Especially when I can't see what that 5 shillings is doing for me. So the legal information is found that the higher tax rates can induce more corruption in the economy by incentivizing tax evasion. You are actually incentivizing it because now you're working hand in hand with people in order to avoid it. And I'm taking some quotes. This quote here, if you get it, I'm sure the PowerPoint will be shared to people. If you get here, you see, I took this quote out of the Nigerian Economic Summit group on attitudes and so on. The one that the individual was said that when most people are coming from the local government to collect bribe. For instance, they want to lock people up in your shop, and you tell them that you don't have to money. They seem on people tell you, I am going to do that, and they write a receipt for you, and that receipt is not going anywhere because there's no technology making sure that it's all tracked and everybody can be accounted for. There are other tools like that. The next one is the social contract. And you jump that slide. An important part of every country's development process is the building of a social contract in which citizens pay tax and in return they receive public goods and services. You're paying your tax for a reason. If I'm paying my taxes for you to pay the police so that the police will secure me, not extort me. It is for you to pay for the hospital so that I can go there and get treatment. That's the social contract. It's for you to provide the roads so that I can bring my product out. It's for you to make sure there's electricity so that I can run my business. Right now, with the cost of diesel, I don't know how I stay afloat, but I'm definitely not making any money. That's my notes. Don't come looking for money because there's none. I pay you all for control. Evidence shows that this is associated with the establishment of a norm for taxpayers and a belief that non-tax payment is wrong. But once you start to see that contract, then when you're not paying your taxes, so when you don't pay your taxes, and when you drive us back. But where are you driving me back now? Other studies, and it doesn't matter the demographics, it doesn't matter the political, so it doesn't matter anything. What is important is that individuals support taxation and pay taxes. And they do this when they have seen the government supply goods and services. They live in an area where they can see the road has been built, or schools are good, or something. That's when they will be motivated to engage. They live in areas where there is a concrete need for state service or other state protection, and this is provided somehow or another. It gets more and more complicated. But at the simplest level is the social contract. And then we have this next slide, this chicken and egg problem. Which will you do first? Will you provide the service? I can't provide the service because I don't have the money. Okay, but if you don't have the money, I'm not going to provide the service, I'm not going to pay tax. And we go round and round that circle. And the Nigerian Governors Forum has been working with states to try and see whether they can provide a visible tax for service program. In some states, for instance, in Kwara State, the tax office actually would bring the money and pay for environment to come and remove rubbish from the market. So when you are going there, the people can say, look at the rubbish pile here, and what am I paying tax for? because they can see what you're paying your taxes for. And we're even encouraging them to see if they can use some of the money from the informal sector so that you have a connection to help. So for every mama put who is paying 100 or 50,000 naira tax in a year, because if you're paying 100 naira a year, you're already paying 30-something thousand naira in tax in a year. Part of that money goes into the health insurance, so that at least when your child is sick, you can go there and you get proper jobs. So this social contract is a key driver. Transparency and accountability. Next slide. What is here is more detail. What is here is you tell me how my money has been spent. So this one, and this is the annual tax summaries are sent to taxpayers. The tax you paid this year is this amount. X% went on health. This percent went on this. This percent went on this. This percent went on this. So you can start to make a connection between your tax and the services and goods you get in return. That is transparency, and it is done in other places. It can be done here. I've had conversations with government officials where I've said, what you need to do is publish how much money you make every month. They now do it. But in those days, you publish all the money you're collecting every month from taxpayers. They say, hi. If we do that one, they're going to ask us what we're spending the money on. And we say, that's the exactly one. We need that investment. That's the thing that we need to do. Then we talk about attitudes. Next slide. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Bill and Melinda Gates supported the survey by Nigerian Economic Summit Group, and it found, among other things, that 76% of the survey respondents agreed it was wrong to avoid paying tax. I lumped up the figures for those who said it's wrong, very wrong and wrong. So 76% of people, if you do a survey here, most people say it's wrong not to pay taxes. But, this is the part, but 50% felt it's understandable why they don't pay tax, for all of the reasons I've just given. Yeah? And 65% of people generally agree that people should pay tax. But 48% of them believe that actively avoiding paying taxes is justifiable. Because I'm giving you money and then I'm still going back to pay my own local government, my own water, my own electricity, my own security. Why am I giving you the money when you're not going to spend it on? So that's the attitude. That's what this breakdown of the social contract is causing. Okay? And 51% said they would cheat if they were sure nobody would catch them. In fact, the only people why people turn up at all to pay taxes when they want to do a contract or when you want to do something that requires it, or you want to buy land, you have to do something. And that's when the corruption comes back in. Because you go there, you see a multi-millionaire, he's paying 20,000 naira tax, him and the boys will talk. And he gets the tax that for buying a piece of land, that's worth 42 billion. I mean, if somebody can afford 42 billion, what do you think his tax bill should have been? There's a persuasive lack of trust in both officials and in the government's ability to judiciously expend taxes it collects. It's a very sad story. But there's also another quote from another survey, it's often put, that when we were exchanging with taxpayers, and we found this when we did that kind of survey when I was working with the Nigerian governors on certain things, that taxpayers say they will pay the taxes if they can see it being used on education, being used on health, or providing them a secure environment. So the attitudes are being driven by the complexity. Remember right back to when we did that one on the Southeast, all of these issues. It's a complex issue, but we need to start addressing it. So next slide. With the forthcoming elections, we can help our future leaders to influence that tax discussion. We need to ensure that our leaders, and therefore us, to ensure our leaders understand the value of the social contract. They need to commit to showing the use of tax revenues. They need to commit to transparency in the expenditure of tax and other revenues, other expenditure. And it's possible. And when I was coming in, when I walked into the PODIUM seminar room, I suddenly saw Sulu's picture there as chairman of the board of African Heritage. And I cried, because I didn't know that at the time when I put this school. And why I say this is possible I just took this quote from Soludo's speech of a few days ago, and forgive me calling His Excellency. I tell you, I added that because it's part of the whole sentence. Pledge here again to devote every kobo of your tax money to work for you. This is your government. I am your employee. I commit to a transparent, accountable, judicious, and impactful use of your tax money. My litmus test for every expenditure will be to ask two questions. If this is my own hard-earned money from my work or my profit, will I spend it that way? The second test is this the best way to spend the taxes and levies collected from the bulk traders and keke riders? If I cannot answer yes to both of them, I will hesitate to approve that expenditure. That is what we're talking about. The tax contract, the social contract, transparency. So when I say these things, people sometimes say, yeah, that works somewhere. I say, what's in Nigeria? We're going to see it. Governor Soludo, we're watching you. Yes. Next slide. We do a lot of talking. So I just took out this slide set from a workshop that we held together in Keynote with all the Southeast States boards of internal revenue, NASIMA, women in business, everything, and they set out an action plan that they need to meet regular meetings, they need to do this, they need to do this, who has responsibility, Southeast Governors Forum, this is what you're going to do. I can guarantee you that if I circle back to that list, almost those actions were supposed to have been done in September 2020, December 2020, and so then January. I can guarantee you none of them have been done, or they have been done partially. Because it's not just the government. The private sector itself is also not pushing the agenda. And the private sector needs to push the agenda. And when we say push the agenda, it's not when you get a meeting with the commissioner. You leave a discussion, my people are suffering, and say, okay, anything for the words. Or that's what my people say. So from the next slide, some suggestions and recommendations. One is that we ensure that the electorate in future elections understand the taxes they may have to pay and the need for those taxes to be accountable. The state should copy the revamped tradition of an annual finance act. Is there in the National Tax Policy 2017 that every year states should publish what they are going to do about tax, when they are going to use it, address any lacuna in their law, if there's avoidance taking place, block that avoidance. That's what we'll be doing 2019 Finance Act, 2020 Finance Act, 2021 Finance Act, and we'll see what happens with 2022 Finance Act. The social contract. Do we start using a tax for service approach? Something to show what we are talking about, how some of the money is going. Transparency and accountability. That explanation I showed you from the UK of how your money is spent. You can start to see that. But we too need to step up to the plate, because a lot of this information is published on websites, in newspapers, and that newspaper is only used for wrapping suya or granules. The content is not looked at. Corruption is the elephant in the room. We need to address it. And you can't eat an elephant and won't go. If you want to eat it, you have to cut it into pieces and slowly eat it small by small. Or the entire community comes together to bring it down, and then you have one big sugar chili style feast. And I always love this quote. I take it from Zebediah. For those of you who are old enough to know about the masquerade. Zebediah used to say, I want it, I marked. I don't want it, be marked. We have the amount of money for this, we have the amount of money for. I want it, I marked. That is the transparency and accountability we're talking about. Next steps are almost finished. Next steps. Let's discuss with honesty and transparency. Because very often we don't, all of us, myself included, don't come to the table with our hands clean, ready to listen. The current paradigm cannot continue. We must address accountability perceptions. Because some of them are perceptions. Some of them are true, but some of them are perceptions. I was talking to somebody recently, and they're saying that look at how many billions and so how many billions. I said, because if it's talking millions, it's actually billions. Like very soon, by 2023, you'll be hearing that people have stolen money in trillions. When we know that the entire country doesn't have the trillions, and yet now we're telling you somebody is saying. So we were using our perceptions, our salt and pepper, and our maggi to make our things bigger. Inculcate in the electorate and those campaigning for positions an understanding of the development opportunities that are available from a transparent tax strategy. A clear commitment to addressing the ease of doing business issues that go wider than pure taxation. Often, tax issues are a symptom of problems with the social contract. And taxpayers must use their votes to both challenge and require their candidates to understand the social contract and agreements to be measured by their commitment to the delivery of the social contract. So, how do we going to make that change start? Any discussion, comments? But one thing I always say, if for any reason I come back to have a discussion, even as a participant, in a year's time, will there be any difference? Or will we be saying exactly the same thing? I'll take your questions and answers. Thank you very much.